All right, welcome back to Grimerica Outlawed. We have Reed Davis here. We're super excited to talk to him. He's a double board certified holistic health practitioner, certified nutritional therapist, and best known as the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And his website there is functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com and YouTube at FDN Training. So thanks for joining us, Reed. We are excited to chat with you about your work.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and it's one of these things that we're in Canada, of course. So I feel like this is something that is unique, or at least it's sort of it's a unique thing that the states, as far as that country goes, can you know we could have. I don't think we could have what you're doing up here in Canada, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So maybe like a little bit of background on yourself and how you started this.
Yeah, I'll give you some background, but I want to say, first of all, that I'm a former Canadian, if you could say it that way. I don't know how to say it, but I was born in Canada, in Toronto, and I lived there till I was a teenager. So about 60 years ago, I moved to the States, but and I'm a citizen here now. But I guess once a Canadian, always a Canadian. Still love hockey, and shotguns and chopping wood and stuff. That's what we used to do. So anyway, I got into the health space uh, circuitously. I was actually in environmental law and conservation, saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees. And it started to bother me how bad things were for the flora and fauna of the planet. And so I started wondering about people. What about people? Including myself. And I was healthy. This is back in the 90s. I was healthy, but I didn't want anything to sneak up on me. And I was kind of getting tired of that profession. The owners of the company I worked for cared more about the money than the mission. And money's good, but I would just didn't feel right about all that. And then a friend of mine, one of my best friends, I was very close to his father, who died suddenly, and everyone kept saying, "Well, he was perfectly healthy, and then he dropped dead." Somehow it didn't ring true to me. You can't be perfectly healthy and drop dead the next day. So at the same time, and I'll wrap this up, but I was taking my son, who was a high school athlete, into this wellness center in Southern California, where I lived and raised him, and um, it was a chiropractic wellness center, lots of things. He got 7 varsity letters in 4 different sports. What I always say about that is, yeah, I'm very proud, but his grades weren't very good. 7 varsity letters in 4 different sports. And so, but I got a new career out of it because I loved it. I loved listening to these alternative practitioners back then talk about innate intelligence of the body, how the body really worked, and I just had to get into it. So I talked my way into kind of a marketing and management position, but within a very short period of time, like just weeks, I was running that whole office. I was studying anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and I was taking a course in nutrition. And here's the key, and this is why I've been doing what I've been doing for over 25 years. Almost everybody coming in that practice looking for alternative health had seen like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 different practitioners and wasn't better yet. Now, remember, I was healthy. I didn't have any health. I didn't know. What do you mean you've been to 10 people? You're not better yet. That's a ripoff, you know? And I ride motorcycles a lot, and I'm out riding my bike one day, and I get crazy ideas. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be the last person that they ever need to see to get well again. And I had an awful lot to learn, you guys, but I had nothing to unlearn. And I spent the next 10 years in that office running laboratory work, like alternative labs. And I did it on thousands of people. Um, and I recognized some patterns and learned a lot. And eventually, after 10 years, someone kind of pushed me towards teaching. And so that's what I do now. I developed this system called FDN, functional diagnostic nutrition. I couldn't think of a better name back then. And so I started teaching, and now I've trained 5,000 people in 50 different countries to do what I developed over this 10-year period. Never diagnosing or treating anything specifically. As for doctors, we just want to know what's really wrong with you and how can you fix it. And so
Wow.
that's what I'm known for.
What
What
is
were some of the first patterns you seen when you started doing that? Like, what were some of the first things to jump out at you? Were there any surprises or?
Well, everything was a surprise, or else it was no surprise because everything else anyone was trying to do was allopathic. It was what can I take or what can so because I wasn't a medical doctor, I had to figure out the underlying cause and condition. You're not allowed to diagnose. You're not allowed to treat either. So not only did I have to figure out what was really wrong, but I had to teach them how to fix it. In other words, teach them how to live themselves out of the problems they lived themselves into. The first thing I noticed, because most of the patients coming in there were women, was that their hormones were out of balance. And this was at a time when the synthetic hormones were really being discovered to be dangerous. So, and no one knew what else to do. Well, what do we do? And so I ran thousands of hormone test kits on these women, like literally thousands over the period. But I discovered that balancing hormones wasn't enough. It's like, well, they got immune system, they got digestion, they got detoxification problems. So this all happened over a long period of time. So the pattern, to answer your question, Darren, is HIDDEN, the hidden stressors, dysfunctions, and things that go on upstream. And I'm pretty practiced at saying this, but that pattern was absolutely the secret to understanding what's really going on so that a person could then take charge and do the things that they had to do. That's a little bit harder, but figuring it out really isn't a problem. HIDDEN, we run those labs on everybody, figure out what the this constellation of healing opportunities. We never diagnose, look for, hey, what needs improvement? And then apply principles of healing, lifestyle stuff, and they can reverse even serious diagnosed conditions. And so the patterns that I recognized was hidden. HIDDEN, hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system balance. And that's a mouthful. It's a lot to learn, but you can teach someone. And that's the other half of what we do, I guess.
Well, just getting back to some of the labs, like you mentioned alternative lab work in the night. That would have been, was that still the 90s when you were doing alternative lab work?
99 is when I
Yeah.
really started running lab work 26 years ago.
So what is that? What did like an alternative lab work look like in 26 years ago and compared to what it is now?
Well, we're still running some of the labs, like saliva testing for hormones. This was very convenient for us. We could just hand a kit or even just ship a kit, mail it to the customer, no matter where they lived. They didn't even have to come in the office eventually. So, saliva testing for hormones, urine testing for like liver markers and digestive markers, and stool testing for microbiome and pathology like parasites, bacteria, funguses, and things like that. So saliva, urine, stool, and of course blood work some, but a lot of people, especially back then, even now, you probably know someone who's been to the doctor, got their blood work, everything looks normal. Everything looks normal. Well, but they know something's wrong. And so they go searching. Those are the people who are landing at my office 25, 6 years ago. And I worked there for 10 years. That's all I did was run labs. And I'm a pretty good self promoter. So promotion and trying to produce healthy people. Again, now I just teach, but the labs Graham, were at that time considered alternative. They're not even mainstream today, but they're used in functional medicine. There's kind of a new, you probably know all about that. But there's a problem with functional medicine, but at least they're using good labs for the most part.
What's the problem?
Well, most of the practitioners are bound by their licensure and standard of care to diagnose and treat specific conditions. That's how insurance works. You have to put the DX and TX codes on your bill to get paid. And so that plus their training, their mentality is all about, coming up with a diagnosis as soon as you can't treat that one thing. I almost think like my motorcycle every now and then breaks down. I've taken my bike into a shop and had the mechanic come out and say, "We've diagnosed the problem. We got the parts in stock. We'll have your bike ready in a couple hours or tomorrow, whatever." Okay, that's great. But he's using the term diagnosis. That's what doctors use for people. I see a correlation. Why does standard medicine treat us like
Machines.
vehicles with extra parts? Or you don't need those parts. We just get rid of those parts. So the idea of treating specifics is something that, remember at the time, and I came out of the law field, I know where lines are drawn, and I never wanted to practice medicine without a license. So the mandate was find out what's really wrong and then teach that person what they could do to reverse or get themselves out of trouble. So that is a whole different mentality than diagnose and treat. Where you're fractionating. You got the gastroenterologist, you got some gut problems, some stomach, whatever, and then. But if you ask that guy about hormones, oh, my libido's down, I can't build muscle, something, my energy's low. Oh, you got to go see an endocrinologist for that. And so that's where we differ, because we treat nothing specifically. We treat everything non-specifically. Our lifestyle medicine protocol, which is diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation, it treats every cell, tissue, organ, every system in the body. And so you just simply are getting healthier from cells on up, and whatever problem you had goes away, or it doesn't. But that's what we do is bring the health. Just bring the health. Get things functioning the way they're supposed to.
Is diet the number one culprit? Is that sort of usually the starting point for people's problems?
It's way up there because it's something we can't control. There are other what I call contributors to metabolic chaos. That's our one condition. Everybody comes to us, metabolic chaos. We can't, we don't want to label, whatever, irritable bowel or migraines or anything. We don't want to label it. Metabolic chaos. How do you sort that out? Run the labs. Then how do you fix it? Obviously, what you eat matters. That's a great contributor to metabolic chaos if it's the wrong food. And it also nurtures and supports if it's the right food. And so we have a way of determining diet for every person. There's different types of people. And so there's either testing or other ways to figure that out. One of the tests we run a lot of, Darren, is food sensitivity. So if you could just get rid of foods you're sensitive to, you're going to be in better shape. And so diet's a huge area, and it's something that you have to do. You also have to rest. You have to exercise. You have to find out what all the hidden stressors are and reduce them or eliminate them. And we think supplements are also very important. So that's our DRESS: diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. And you can say it begins with diet because, again, everybody eats. So good place to start. But if it was a real client asking me that, I'd say, we're going to start on your weakest area. Maybe they're just not going to bed and sleeping. Maybe they never exercise. Maybe you find a way to work with that person, um, and try to do some good in the world.
I was thinking about the problem when you were mentioning about the specific doctors, like how we go to specialists all the time here in Canada, right? We like you get looked at and then you get sent to this. And the problem with that is because I was just thinking how value would be if we had more people doing what you're doing, looking at it from a holistic standpoint. Because then with the wait times and stuff too, you're talking years and years and years before you even get to the root of anything, or maybe you don't even get to the root of it because you're just given after all that you're given a topical cream or a prescription to take. I mean, it's all just, even when you finally get to that specialist, you're only given something to get rid of the symptom.
Yeah, relief care is important. We don't want anyone suffering, and if they have to get relief, they have to get relief. I learned that a long time ago. This lady came in the office, and remember, we had chiropractic and different modalities, and um, her main complaint, from my perspective, was her hot flashes. And I knew enough at that time to say, well, if we get things balanced out, your diet and sleeping, we'll take away the stress. Your hormones should go back to quote unquote normal. She didn't want to hear any of that. She wanted to know, how do I get rid of these hot flashes? That was so really, so then she'd be open to, yeah, how do I make sure they don't come back? How do I control this myself? And so relief cares, doctors are really good at that. And I don't blame anyone for doing that. By the way, we're in Canada. I have a lot of practitioners up there that I've trained. They have pretty good. It's not covered by the insurance or the health system, but people were paying out of their pocket anyway for stuff. So that we have a lot of successful FDN practitioners, and there's a good naturopath school in Ontario, and other affiliated practitioners.
Is there any limitation on the tests you can run in Canada or compared to the US? Is there any sort of regulatory?
Believe it or not, one of our top labs is in Toronto. Dr. Aaron Gonshore, he actually lives in Montreal, but he owns a lab that's in Toronto, and so we're actually using the Canadian lab here in the States. What's cool about that is the states. There's certain states, New York and Delaware and Rhode Island and New Jersey, a few others that are very restrictive. They won't let some of my lab companies, American lab companies, operate there. So we just send them Canadian labs. It's kind of a neat thing. I mean, lately we've had some shipping issues. You guys know your postal service is on strike right now. And then there was the tariff thing. We had a bunch of kids sitting in a warehouse wondering what's it going to cost us to get them out and things. But it's all worked out. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and when you have important work to do, you find a way to do it. Um,
But,
so
what about through our system though? Like we have labs that do work for you, but will they do work for me if I want, if I'm
you're
going through our public health system?
we're under the same problem here in the States. It's not a public health system per se, but it's insurance based. The difference is that the government's the insurance company, pay up there. Here we have insurance companies. They have restrictions. They have labs that I've been running for 25 years that are wonderful labs. They still call it experimental, because they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay. So we have the same problem here. People end up paying out of pocket for what they really need, what they want. And I mean, there's a lot of difference between Canada and the U.S., but that's not a big one. It's very very much alike. And people get frustrated. They start searching. The problem is there's so much that doesn't work out there, and that was what I ran into all those years ago. Was the crap that they've been trying. if you go to 3 doctors and I'll tell you either nothing's wrong with you, your blood work looks normal. Well, the one thing they won't do here is offer you the needle. They won't say, well, you can opt out of the whole thing, including life. They don't do that here, the MAID thing. But they're frustrated. They can't get anything out of their standard medical practitioner, so they start jumping around from one lame thing to the next. And there's a lot of people taking advantage of that. Frustrated. They'll sell you stuff. They'll sell you standing on your head in the corner with carrots up your nose. Oh, let's try this, try that, try this, try that. We call it the cycle of trial and error. You go try a new diet, you try a new product, you try a new therapy of some sort, and nothing really works. That's no different. That's exactly what my original clients or patients of the office were doing. My first question is, what's your main complaint? If I had a magic wand, could get rid of one thing, what would that be today? And it's migraines. And let me tell you about a lady who can't, or whatever it is. But so a good example to answer one of your questions. Lady comes in the office. I've been running labs and was learning on the job, building the plane as you fly it, so to speak. And she was on about her 4th or 5th chiropractic office. She came in for neck and back pain. And I could tell this day that she was feeling bad. Hey, what's wrong? Oh, Reed, it's this weight. I'm 40 pounds overweight. And I couldn't get a word in edgeways. I wanted to butt in and offer something. And she's like, oh, and it's just so horrible. I've been on this medication for 2 years for the hives. I get the hives, so I take this medication. But in 2 years, I've gained 40 pounds, and it's really frustrating. So I'm understanding why she's looking sad that day. And she says, but Reed, I went to the same doctor the other day for a checkup, and I told him how frustrating, all he's doing is refreshing her prescription. Come in, you still got the high. Yeah, okay, refresh your prescription. And that's how a lot of standard medicine works. But she told the doctor she was very frustrated with the extra weight and the hives. And he said, lady, you can be fat or you can have the hives, according to her. She said, well, doctor, that's very depressing. And what do you think he said?
I got something for that too.
I'll be happy to write your prescription for antidepressants. And so now I'm really understanding why she's feeling sad and staring at the floor the whole time. By the way, at the clinic, I was managing the place. I'd walk the patients back to the treatment rooms and talk to them and figure out what's going on. And I finally got her back in the room, and I said, hey, first name, did you ever think of trying to find out why you get the hives? And it was like a shockwave. Her head snapped around so hard, I thought she wouldn't need her chiropractic treatment that day. And she goes, what? So just fast forwarding just a little bit, sent her home with some test kits, got the results, and had a consultation with her. We call it report of findings. And within 9 days, she was off her medication. She called her doctor and says, hey, doc, I'm not taking this medication anymore because I found out why I get the hives. So you had mentioned, Graham, a few minutes ago that a lot of practitioners, they aren't even looking for the underlying causes. They're perfectly happy to just keep treating and treating and treating. That's what they do. And it does relieve some suffering, but you can, when you don't address the underlying causal factors, it'll be a downward spiral, and it can really lead to misery.
And the side effects too. I mean, these things aren't just, a lot of them have pretty nasty side effects. So you're also risking potentially other things like you had mentioned in that example. So then what was it? What can you talk about the details of that process on how you figured out what it was and what you started doing?
with her, I got a little lucky, and the food sensitivity test. Again, I've been running this one test for 25 years, and it's changed and actually improved a little bit. And they test for more foods now. But even back then, she was eating things. Largely, what contributed to her hives was her diet. This answers one of Darren's questions about diet. Yeah, it can be really critical. And to the degree that the diet is the problem, it's an easy fix. So got her off some foods, and she had some hormone imbalances and blah blah. But man, changed her life and changed mine because it really gave me. She was so happy. She let me know just another couple of weeks later that she was working out at the gym to a sweat, taking hot showers. I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I haven't had a hot shower or worked out to a sweat in 2 years, because even on the meds, I would get the hives." And so, man, did this change her life. And I just knew I was onto something. And I would run, you know, I'd run 8, 9, 10 labs on every person that would pay for it. And some of it was actually a waste of money. But it helped me get to the point where I had recognized these patterns that I gave you, the hidden pattern and the dress protocol. And of course, we have coaching methods to get people to follow the program. It's easy to run labs and figure out what the problem is and even make recommendations. They're totally customized to that one individual person. But getting that person to follow the recommendations can be another challenge. So there's 3 steps to what we do. Figure out what's wrong, teach them how to fix it, and then keep them on the program.
Yeah, just going back to the insurance thing. I mean, there is some the last company I worked for, we did have some coverage on this stuff. We had I think 500 for naturopath, 500 for massage, and then there was another category that kind of overlapped. Is it chiropractic, Darren? Was that a
Yeah, I think
separate category?
it was a separate chiropractor.
So you could kind of work around those three and get some of this kind of work done, by getting covered through insurance.
Well, there's here we have something called health savings accounts. So if you have insurance, you're also able to stash your own money aside tax free, so before it gets taxed. So it's kind of a tax write-off. You can put $7,000-8,000 a year into an account, and you don't pay any income taxes on that. Even when you spend it, it's just sort of tax free
Oh,
spending. But it's your own money, and so we accept those kind of payments. At least you're using tax sheltered money, but it adds up. It accumulates. You don't have to use it in that one year, um, and people are using those. But insurance is, you know, their job is to make money for their investors and stockholders, and that means keep expenses down. That's how you do it. You have gatekeepers at insurance companies who deny that. We used to call it the 3 Ds of insurance: delay, deny, and discount. Delay, deny, and discount. And if you're a doctor and you got an office, you got rent and utilities, and you got equipment that you're paying leases on, you're paying staff, you have a lot of responsibilities, and you see people and you help them best you can, and you build the insurance company. And when you're waiting for your money, they're very easy to discount that. Well, we don't think we should pay that much, and it's literally like, let's make a deal. So we became a cash practice, and that's what we're the model that I teach in my
oh,
business course is to become a cash practice, and not telling people not to have insurance, because you need that for catastrophes, catastrophic coverage. If you get, let's say you live in Chicago, there's drive-by shootings every night, and if you get shot, you're not going to call your nutritionist. So, and bad things happen, and so you need insurance. and you can stash some money away tax free. Otherwise, what better investment could you make than your own health? I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to sound
was
like
going
a
to ask you.
salesman here, but really,
Yeah,
especially at
yeah,
my age, and as you guys get older, young fellas, um, I'm 72. My health is really way up there in importance, along with breathing. And, you know, it's really important. So insurance should not be your guide. And unfortunately, people, they're just conditioned. If my insurance doesn't pay for it, I'm not either. And oh man, you're left to you're now in the algorithm. You're in the machine, man. You're you're going to get the symptoms taken care of, maybe, but the downward spirals going on behind the scenes will go unabated until they get so bad you're in bad shape.
yeah. That's great. I
Yeah,
was
I
going to
can't
ask you
believe
about
in
the cash.
Canada. Yeah, I don't know. You guys ever talk about this MAID thing?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's really weird. In the States, I mean, they got a lot of messed up things here too. But I guess you've heard the joke made, MAID, don't call that person to come and clean your house, because they might just come and give you a needle or something.
well, we were coming up with our own. It was called GAID. So it'd be Grimerica Assistance in Dying. And we make it a lot more fun. We can throw you out of a plane or, kill you in a medieval fight, or we got some different ways to do this, right?
Yeah, I
But
can
we,
think of some.
yeah, some pretty fun ways. I mean, besides getting, injected with something that's going to freeze you and then be very, very painful. I've heard some pretty nasty stories about how this stuff works. But I mean, the other thing is especially because it's not just happening for the original reason why it was developed. There was a case that we talked about not too long ago where a kid was denied. Darren, you have to help me with the details on this one, but it was a kid was denied some kind of service or it wasn't working, and there was an option in the States to go do it, to get, like, he could survive if he went to the States, and they basically just offered this kid MAID, and his dad flew him down to the States and healed him down there. So
Yeah, I've heard countless stories like that, and um, it doesn't have to be that bad to be rewarding to a practitioner. In other words, um, they saved that kid's life, and that must feel really good. And I'm sure the dad's happy. But um, the fact that they're offering that to children disturbs me if I think about it. So I pretty much don't think about it.
And mentally handicapped people now as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's there yet. I
You
think that
stay
could
out
be
of
soon.
hospitals. It's
It's
like you
about
gotta
to be. If
watch
it's
out.
not in yet, they're working on it. They're fighting for it right now.
Yeah. You get picked up by the maid police.
Yeah, I think it's up to like the number 5 cause of death in Canada now is.
Good grief. Good
Yeah.
grief. Yeah. Well, I'll never say never, but I'll tell you, the joy of working with children and getting them better is, people who in my field and who practice natural health are it's very rewarding. I had a lady come in the office 20 years ago, and again, this is back in the formative times when I just kept always looking for direction and hope that I'm doing the right thing. And before I recognized all the patterns, this lady was coming in the office and doing well. She was happy with the services, and I'm walking her out, checking her out at the front, and she said, "Reed, do you work with kids?" I go, "Yeah, I raised 4, and I have a coached football for 15 years. I've worked. Why?" She goes, "Well, they're trying to send my son home from school if I don't put him on Ritalin." Now, Ritalin was the drug of the day back then for ADD and ADHD and all this stuff. And I said, "Well, do you think your son has a Ritalin deficiency?" And she didn't think that was funny. She said, "No, I don't want to put my son on drugs. Um, can you help him or not?" I said, I don't know, but we could run some tests and see what's going on. Something stimulating his nervous system or whatever it might be. And so we ran some labs. And by the way, I said, was this a nurse or a doctor at the school sending your kid home if you don't put him? No, it was just the principal and the teacher. So they were diagnosing and prescribing for a 9-year-old. Now, I don't know, you probably know this. Ritalin is a class 2 narcotic. That's the same class as cocaine. So teacher and principal recommending cocaine-like substance for a 9-year-old. Why? For behavior modification. Didn't care about the kid. Cared about him not poking the other kids and shouting out loud and whatever he was doing. Certainly wasn't paying attention to the teacher. And so we ran some labs. And within 3 weeks of teaching the mom what to do, I got a call from the principal of the school. Tracked you down through the mom, Mr. Davis. This is a different kid. He's paying attention. He's not jumping out of his chair. He's not poking the other kids. He's just behaving himself and actually doing good. And then he blew it. He goes, "What'd you put him on? What'd you put him on?" And I didn't bother explaining that because I knew he was looking for the quick fix. We put him on a different diet, a different exercise regimen, a different homework schedule and sleep schedule, and really straighten the guy out. A lot of it was just foods, and he didn't want to hear that. So I wasn't able to. I thought when he was telling me, I'm like getting the chills. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get the whole school full of kids, And it didn't work out that way. But I helped a lot of kids, and it feels really good. And sometimes the changes aren't that drastic. There's nothing really wrong with the kid. Can I tell another quick story?
Yeah, please do.
So this lady was coming in the office for chiropractic, and I advised every patient one way or another. And we were having this great talk. She was a principal of a Montessori school, 5 of them. She had 5 Montessori schools. Monday through Friday, she went to a different school each day. And she started sitting in, she told me this, on the troublemaker kid meetings with the parents. So parent-teacher conference with the kid who's misbehaving. And she, as the principal, she just sat there to observe, but she started asking the children, almost all boys, what'd you have for breakfast? What percentage do you think said some sugary, colorful?
Cereal. Captain Crunch.
100%.
It was 100%, Darren. Good, excellent. It was 100% of the kids were eating crap for breakfast. And so to answer your question about diet, yeah, oh man, you could really do a lot. I've had so many cases that centered around food sensitivities that.
What are the most common food sensitivities? What are sort of the top 5 things that are fucking people
The
up?
top 5 are eggs, soy, corn, dairy, and wheat, or grain type of a thing. Eggs, soy, corn, dairy, and wheat. But there's lots of others, and it's weird. We have a test for 170. It's up to 176 foods now. Nobody eats that many foods. You probably don't eat more than 30 different foods. But it covers a lot of ground, and it includes spices and other things that might be on the table. So it could be carrots. It could pop up that hey, you shouldn't. Right now, peas and beef are creating inflammation on a cellular level. The way this test works, I could explain, but just understand that we can identify the sensitive foods. You eliminate them from your diet, and everybody improves to some degree, but only to the degree that those foods were part of the problem.
Yeah.
So if the foods, like I had a lady, she was in her dark room with a pillow over her head 5 days a week with migraines, debilitating. No, couldn't work, nothing. And she had some food sensitivities, turns out. And within a couple weeks, she never had another migraine. She would just get what she called normal headaches. Eh. And I laugh at that because I don't think there's any such thing as headaches aren't normal. People get them; they're common. But anyway, with this, so with this kind of a test, why did that occur? Because foods were the number one contributor to metabolic chaos, and other people run the food sensitivity test and they get half better or a quarter better. To the degree that those foods were contributing to the problem is the degree to which you should make improvements. And then you got to figure out, well, what else is there? So all these other potential stressors, and I coined this phrase metabolic chaos because it actually is what you're facing as a practitioner. All that diagnosing and treating individual things. Oh, I'm a gut specialist. I think it's a parasite you got, or I think it's your thyroid, or I think all this guessing at what it is isn't. It's just a different mentality, and we don't use it. We're very disciplined. We run a look for that constellation of healing opportunities, and so it could be your hormones, could be your immune system, overactive, underactive. If you're not breaking down, absorbing the nutrients in your food, that's a bad thing. You need vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, trace elements, phytonutrients, and so on. So, and they're required because we're human and that's how we're made. And I could go on and on about that, obviously. But so you guys people are healthy up there. They like to go outside and play hockey and shoot ducks.
How did you know?
That's what I did when I lived there. I grew up hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
We used to go up to Perry Sound, Georgian Bay, and all that beautiful time.
I'd say, well, we don't consider, anything sort of east of Manitoba part of Canada out here, but we definitely do a lot of duck hunting and stuff like that. I'd say probably one of our biggest problems up here, I don't know if you'd agree, other than the food system and the medical system and all that sort of higher ranging stuff, is that we go into these winter months where we really don't get a lot of sunlight. We're stuck inside already because it's cold. It's 0 or minus 10 degrees. And then you're only getting 7 or 8 hours of daylight as it is.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Toronto, like I said. My mom knew enough back then. Again, I'm 72, so 70, 60, 70 years ago, my mom was giving us fish oil, cod liver oil and stuff like that. Why? She just vitamin D. We're in a position today to know a lot more and to be able to augment with. That's why supplements are important. Remember, I said DRESS. So diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction. If you do all that, especially maybe on the stress reduction, much of it, you don't even know that you're being stressed out. But only then do the supplements actually kick in and work. You can't supplement yourself out of a bad lifestyle. But when it comes to sunlight, you can make up for some of that for sure.
I just want to go back quickly to the food sensitivity. It's possible to, if you're eating too much of one thing and you become sensitive to it, it is possible to bring some balance back in and not be sensitive to it anymore, right? Is there hope for long-term changes in your food diet where you can sort of wean yourself back onto certain foods? And what kind of sensitivity training do you do? Is it based on the frequency? The naturopath that we had in Calgary, we were doing a frequency-based one where he would match the frequency of the foods with your body and see the reaction to it, and it would come up either red, yellow, or green on a chart.
Yeah. Yes. Well, first of all, it depends on the test. That probably was an IgG mediated sensitivity test. So it's just looking for antibodies. And there's actually I don't know if I should say more sophisticated testing, but there's this mediated release test. It's a different way of looking at it. But get off all the yellows and reds. Don't just say, oh, look, what's in the red. You should get off the yellows too. There should just be green and red, because there's a threshold you don't want to go over that. And um, you can reintroduce foods if you've healed, and if that food was part of the problem, like I said earlier. But there's different types of sensitivities. So, and some tests just don't measure. They're really called oral intolerances, and you could just not have the enzymes to break that food down. Like milk, lactose intolerance is not your immune system saying, yuck, this is some disease, and responding with inflammation and things like that. It's you just can't digest and absorb it. So, and that's a genetic thing for the most part. So it's going to give you symptoms: heartburn, gas, indigestion, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, or the famous alternating diarrhea and constipation. And so there's other types of intolerances
That's a good point.
besides what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can reintroduce as the body heals. Remember, we're running these tests on people who have health problems, perfectly healthy people, if there is one. Let me know if you find one. Um, they don't come in for testing and the kind of work we do. So people are in various stages of